Okay. Hello. Welcome, Empowered Empaths. I am so excited to have you here today. Um, this is the first podcast episode where I'm welcoming our guest, which is Tiffany, the Rebellious Educator. Did I say that right? The Rebellious Educator, separated by
Yeah.
periods, I want to say. Yeah. Okay. And so Tiffany and I just found each other on Instagram, I want to say a couple weeks ago, and we were vibing on some similar stuff, and I sent her a message and I was like, I just want to have you on the podcast and I want to talk about um there was a post that Tiffany made about redefining rich, and it just spoke to me. So I'm going to ask her to introduce herself in a second, and something that we were just talking about before I pressed record was that I want to say, just to welcome you all into this space, into our space, on the vibe that we've been talking and creating right now, which is um showing up as you are, just showing up as you are, being an open channel. Just this feels really corny coming out of my mouth, but like aligning with your heart, like really like your nervous system centering, aligning with your heart, and then just opening your ears, seeing what kind of amazing things you can pick up on. Like, what are some synchronicities that you might hear today in our conversation that are like little nutrients to you on your path? So I'm saying that in the spirit of opening the space between Tiffany and I, just to um in honor of our free flow conversation. We were talking about that. So okay, first, is there anything that you want to say? First, introduce
Hmm.
yourself, and then if there's anything that you want to add to that, because I feel like you had some better words when we were just chatting.
I think you did it beautifully. Yeah, I'm Tiffany. I'm here in Australia. Oh gosh, something's just popped up on my computer. I
Totally
love it.
fine.
It's
Totally
just
fine.
I don't even know how to get rid of it. It's right in front of your face, and I want to
Oh
look at
no.
you. Google Chrome, don't allow. Okay, don't allow. That sounds good. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
See you again. Um, I'm here in Australia on the east coast of Australia. I don't know how you feel about these introductions. I don't know. I'm a human and I'm the sum total of all my choices and decisions up until this moment.
Oh, I
you know,
love that so much.
I don't know. How do like, I've got a lot of decades under my belt, and how do you, I don't know. I never know how to kind of encapsulate that. But if you get to know me, you will gradually peel away the layers and find out more. And I'm looking
Mm,
forward to doing that with you too, Jess.
it's
Finding out all
beautiful.
your layers.
Well,
Yeah.
you go by the Rebellious Educator on Instagram. I'm so curious
Yeah.
about um your your stake in the ground with the like, where did that come from? Can you tell me a little about that?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I was in the education system for over 3 decades, always doing things differently, always, challenging the status quo. I could see kids as, each of them as being these little unique souls that had their talents, and sometimes their talents weren't maths and science and,
Right.
you know, writing and that sort of thing, but they were, so many kids, have such amazing intuition, and they feel vibes of different kids, and they can't put words to why they don't like that other kid or whatever it is, but they're picking up on things that just don't suit them. And like, I believe that I am divergent. I don't know what the label is, but
Yeah.
divergent. I think a lot of us are. And I don't think it's anything that necessarily needs a label or needs to be um, treated. Oh, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I think divergence is really beautiful and really special. And the gifts that we have for the world don't fit into the normal box. They don't fit into the line up in rows, walk into the classroom, sit in rows, don't talk. If you talk, then that's cheating. Don't ask questions.
Mm.
Don't think critically. Don't think for yourself. Um, so we don't fit into those boxes. And so I
Yeah.
I've always been about trying to create a space, a learning space, where questions are encouraged and creativity is nurtured, and all the things of being, you know, having this human experience are actually encouraged rather than being squashed. So within the system, I could do it to a certain extent. I left the system 2 years ago, and I was really interested in empowering parents to homeschool, because I could see that as, you know, maybe this is the answer. You know, parents can do it. You can do it. And it was all about giving them confidence. But gradually over the 2 years, I've kind of been pulled into, I still have my homeschoolers, and I love my homeschoolers, but I've been pulled into working with entrepreneurs and redefining what, you know, a workshop has to look like. Because, you know, there's this template that you have to fit into. What does a course look like? Apparently there's this, you know, all these steps you have to do. No, let's chuck all that out and redefine what it means to run a course or run a workshop or give a webinar. You know, I don't necessarily like webinars, but you know, or a membership or those sorts of things. And I'm feeling like we're being called, and I think you are too, we're being called to redefine what these things look like. Just like your podcast. Sorry, I'm talking a lot, I know.
No, it's beautiful. Keep going.
I'll say one thing about
Yeah.
when I got your email about your podcast, like the invitation email, and it just sort of said, I'm not planning this out. I don't have questions for you. Just turn up as your beautiful self and we'll just see where it goes, and leave your imposter syndrome at the door. Tell it to leave its boots outside the door. And I just loved it. And I went, oh my God, this is what we need. People who are courageous enough, people who trust, you know, whatever, and trust themselves to just open, like you said at the beginning, open your heart and let come what comes, and trust that whatever message is meant to come through, that will come through. You know, we could plan a whole podcast on this richness and get to the end of it, and the nugget that everyone takes away is something completely different.
Totally.
So I love that. I need to thank you for that, because it was such a breath of fresh air. And it's like you're redefining the podcast interview space by doing. No, I love it. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what on the tail end of what you were talking about, I love how you're talking about redefining like the workshops and the courses, because I've been an entrepreneur for, or I guess a solopreneur is what it's called, for, is it a year and a half now? I want to say about a year and a half. And out there, it felt like jumping into this wild, wild west online space. And there's so much, they call it bro marketing, where it's like, hey, I will help you get 3,000 million clients. And it's almost like coaching sometimes sounds like a get rich quick scheme in some ways that people market it. And it's like, yes, here, I will create the exact template for you. You just go exactly from A, B, C, and you will have a fully booked calendar in 3 months. And just exploring everything out there, it's like I can't stomach the old, it feels very outdated. It feels like how we got to where we're at with like overgrown capitalism, and it doesn't feel like where we're going if we're going to be pulling in the next level from our heart. It's like, I think the next level of business is going to be so much more intuitive, so much more around cycles, which means it's going to be there's going to be space. You're not going to be like a machine that goes 365 days a year, the same exact thing to produce more and more and more. And so finding people like you who are doing this out in the space, like, and I've found like some other people that are doing it too. And it literally feels like a life, what is it? A life preserver when you're out in the middle of the ocean and there's so many people vying for your attention. And so I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm just excited that to see people be successful creating from this new model, which you could even call the new model the heart. I mean, I don't even yeah. So I appreciate what you're doing very, very much. I loved seeing, like, I was scrolling through your website and I was just like, yes, this is it.
Thanks. And just what you were saying then about, you know, I had the same experience when you first go into this online space and you're just bombarded by this, make
Yeah.
6 figures in 6 days, all these assigning of values as well. Like probably relates to our original prompt for this podcast. All these just, I don't know, values that are placed on us that we're told we need to value, like we're given this currency that we're meant to value. I'm not making sense, am I?
No, I was getting what you're saying.
The 6 figures, or the this many clients, or this kind of lifestyle. It's like they've imagined this currency that we need to buy into, and I don't mean currency as in money. I mean, we all operate on some kind of currency. Sometimes, people operate on people giving them compliments. That's a currency.
Right.
People being kind. That's a currency. And so it's like they've created this, and they haven't asked us if that's, or more importantly, we haven't asked our hearts, is that what I really want?
Yeah.
So let's redefine it. My brain's going in 2 different places now, so I'll try and finish that thought before I go on to the next. So we need to redefine it in ourselves, and I think that's what my post was about. Like, what is richness? I don't need all the things that I used to think I needed, going and getting my hair done twice a week and my nails done and facials and new outfits. I can't turn up somewhere in the same thing that I turned up last time, to a principal's conference or something. And
I remember you said, can I pause you for a second? Because you said that in your post. Now that I'm like, you're like jogging my memory. Like, I think you even had an example in there of like, I can't trump out a did you say wedding in the same outfit as the last wedding? And you're like, now I just have my wedding attire. And like, you just, even like that was just such a down to earth, like real example of like, you know what? This is what I wear to the weddings. And to me, like I could feel my shoulders relax, because sometimes when you're invited, when I was younger and there was like wedding season, like every summer, like 2 weddings a summer. And it was like, oh no, I got to wear something different every time. And it's like, why?
And you know what it is? It's my favorite outfit. It's a denim jumpsuit with a zip up the front, with flares and high platforms, and that's my wedding outfit.
Oh my God, I love it.
And people are like in their little pretty things, and I don't care anymore. This is what I value. I want to turn up in something that I feel great in and I love, like heart love, coming back to the heart again, I don't know.
So I'm curious, like on that, going off that piece, like I don't care anymore. When you show up, and I mean, it's something that you love. So there's a piece that cares about, this resonates to me, but you're not caring about, like more frivolities, it sounds like, from like
or not
school ideas.
What people think.
Not caring what people think. Yeah, like an old
that's what I mean.
thought.
I care because I love expressing myself. I love, my jewelry and whatever. I see what I wear as an expression of me.
Yeah.
Right. But the people who, are looking me up and down because I'm not in, the latest ball gown or whatever it is, I don't care.
Okay, so that right there, how does your energy show up different? Can you describe how your energy feels different in that moment when you don't care versus how it did when you did care?
Oh,
I just feel like people's personal, and you don't have, if that feels
it's just a hard question.
When we share, like, because before this call, you and I were vibing on certain like different people that we resonate with, and I have found, for me, when I hear other people share from their own experience of like what this topic that you see in like an Oprah magazine. I love Oprah. Actually, my dog's name is Harpo, which is Oprah spelled backwards. He came with the name, but we kept it. But anyway, like in an Oprah magazine where it's an article, it's like, okay, 5 things. It'll make you happier. Don't care about what other people think. Meditate, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, great. But the person's personal experience has so much dimensionality to it. Just like you're saying, there's something exponential about it. So I'm just kind of curious if you want to describe, like, what's the difference in your energy when you don't care? Because that's like rich, right? That goes into our conversation.
It does. It does. Um, I think before what I thought it was my business to, I don't know. Do you, I think it might be, and I might be on the wrong track here, but I think it might be related to that idea of we're socialized to, especially as women, to keep people comfortable. You know, like,
Yes. Oh,
oh, don't say anything that makes anyone uncomfortable. Don't
totally.
put anyone in discomfort. You know, we need to toe the line and stay within the status quo, because then everyone can be comfortable, because that's somehow my responsibility for everyone to be comfortable, when it's not. I feel like I've had the, you know, the aha that it's not my business. What you think of me is not my, it's no longer my business.
Yeah.
And I get upset with myself for believing that for so many years, you know, for 5 decades or whatever. Like, you know, I can remember as a teenager being basically stalked, but oh God, I don't know if I can say this. No, none of these people will listen. Stalked by my soccer coach.
Mm.
He would wait for me around the corner from my house and see
Wow.
me into school,
Oh
and
my
then
God.
get me in the car and take me to a park and try to kiss me or whatever. God, I'm going a bit, sorry, I'm being way
No,
too
no,
open here.
hey, we opened the space. If you don't want to
No,
keep going, it's totally
no,
fine.
no,
But
I'm fine.
there's
I'm
nothing
fine.
off limits here. I always swear on every single podcast, like it's not a podcast for children,
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
for
all right, I'm going to
adults.
keep going.
Yeah, go for
Because
it.
you know what? That was that little thing in me again, like, oh, I don't want to upset anyone. No, no, get out,
Right.
Tiff, get out. um, you know, and I would go along with it to a certain extent because I didn't want to hurt his feelings.
I've done the
Like,
same fucking thing. It's so, yes, I hear you.
that has happened to me through my life, where I'm so worried about where they're crossing a line in
Yeah.
whatever regard it is. It might have been in the workplace, whatever, and not just sexually. I that was just the example that came to my head. But you know, what is that makes us put other people's comfort, and you know, oh, we don't want them to feel embarrassed, or we don't want them, yeah, I don't know what I feel so upset about the younger me
Mm,
for that. Do you know what I mean? And it
absolutely.
goes for all of us. I think we've been socialized to do this,
Yeah.
to put people's comfort in front of our own. But how dare we? How dare we not honor the sacredness of us?
And even someone who's being, I'm just going to say it, a predator, even if they're unconsciously being a predator, they're not like maybe quote meaning to, but that is a predatory behavior. And I would even say that with like someone who, let's say, even going back to the wedding, and let's say someone's in a ball gown, and let's say they're judging you in a jumpsuit. I mean, that's even like I don't know if I'm being a little I'm I'm gonna say that this is a bold statement, and I don't know if I'm gonna continue to agree with it or not, but it's coming through right now, which is judging, like really being committed to judging someone else and putting them below you in your mind, um, feels pretty predatory to me. It may not be sexually predatory, but I mean that's a frequency. You're like putting someone down. It's so I guess it's more oppressive. You're putting someone down below you by making it your business of, oh, they shouldn't be, and wearing that or whatever. And I don't know, for me, when I go out in spaces where I see someone wearing something different, I like hate to say it, but I totally used to come from that mindset of like, oh wow, like they're really standing out, like, okay. And now when I see someone who's wearing something completely off the wall different, it literally frees. It's like they've given me a nutrient of freedom. I can feel my energy open more because like they're bold enough to show up however the fuck they want to look. And it feels like I can breathe easier because someone else is willing to show up not in the status quo, not in the ball gown that had to be like prescribed or whatever. So,
That's a
you
really
know,
great metaphor for what we're doing in our businesses as well. You know, when you're willing to show up to a podcast and tell your guests to let's just open to this and
yeah,
see what comes through. When I'm not telling, but encouraging clients to let go of some of the the regimen of how you're meant to build a course, or what it's meant to look like, or what your membership's meant to look like, and let's let that go. We are giving people permission to you
yeah,
know
show up as
start
their authentic self, which is like a
be
buzzword right now, but it's so true.
yeah, it is. But even the story that we were both sort of talking about how we felt when we first turned up into this online space, and you
Yeah,
saw all the bro marketing and everything. Like, what did that do? Like, as soon as someone like you or me sees that, we it's like, oh, we're repelled, because we can see through the manipulation, the attempt at manipulation, the attempt at persuasion, and all these tactics. And they even talk about using dopamine hits as tactics. Like, I've been on webinars where especially this one woman I'm thinking of, and she actually made her whole webinar about how to use dopamine hits to manipulate people to keep going in your course. But why
yeah,
do I want to do that?
yeah,
One, there's a whole lot of people like us out there who are absolutely repelled as soon as we get a hint of that. And two, what kind of world, what kind of society are we creating if we're training people to just respond to dopamine hits? Do you get where I'm
to
going with
be
this?
to training people to manipulate, to use someone's unconscious physiological uh chemical system against themselves. You know what? Along that line, there's a coach out there in the space who I love. She's so in the vibe of what we're talking about. Um, do you know who Simone Soul is?
No.
I'll send you her profile. Um,
Okay.
she actually just had a whole 2 week thing on. She's very big into. She's a marketing coach, and she has programs. And she just did a 2 week, like she called it a party on how to ethically create um ethically create relationships, which is tied with dopamine, ethically use dopamine with
Mm,
someone. And she's like, let me be very clear. I'm here for the activists, for the coaches that are leading people back to themselves, all these things. And this is a tactic that is out there. And I want to make sure that like this information basically gets in the right hands.
mm,
And I love that because she's being so transparent about like this is this is actually research that is out there, and she's saying this exists. Now, how can you use it to show up more as yourself, to connect more with the people who need your help? And
mm,
like that versus when I was a teenager and I heard of like first started hearing about psychologists and how like a psychologist, there's this one psychologist that I know personally, who she created her whole like kind of rise from like being a psychologist for these really top big advertising agencies and like using people's I'm going to assume it's probably dopamine, basically using psychology to get people to buy these products that they didn't even need. Like to me, that's like there's like a split, right? It's like, okay, dopamine exists in our bodies, and then there's people who use it to manipulate people, and then there's people who use it to actually create a heart-centered business. So it's such an interesting line to toe, right? Like this transparency of being totally like open about the whole thing.
yeah.
So
It really is. And you're right, it exists, and it serves us.
totally.
Dopamine, it does serve us, but
Yeah.
let's get it, like you say, ethically. Let's get it through the joy of what we're doing, because we actually do enjoy it,
Right.
or the excitement of what we're learning because we are actually excited about what we're learning. It's when the manipulation is different from that. It's like at school when you're given the stickers or the behavior chart, I won't go behavior charts, but the stickers or the rewards or the awards, and it's meant to, encourage and that sort of thing. But where's the joy? Why not encourage in our kids the joy of, oh my God, I just learned that. Oh my God, I can do that now. Let's find the joy in the actual learning or in the actual achievement rather than it coming from outside to try and trick them like a dog, because that's, like the Pavlov's dog experiment, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. And I think when we see this in the marketing, I think that's what we're responding to. Our nervous system is going, oh, you're trying to manipulate me here. And
totally.
then repel.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's excitement because that person is truly excited about whatever their unique wisdom is and sharing that unique wisdom, then that can fill you up and excite you and give you dopamine, but it's because of the source of what they're giving you, not the tricks over the top.
Totally.
Make you think you want it, but you don't.
I think that we can feel that. Like, I think that we're going into an age where we can feel more and more when people are being authentic, and when people are trying to, like, what is it called, slip one over on us or something.
Yeah.
And there's a okay, so I'm gonna bounce for a quick second, and then I should actually ask you about what I actually invited you on for. But I love how we've already explored so many topics. But okay, have you seen the documentary? It's only 60 minutes long. It's on Gaia, and it's called Sensitive: The Untold Story. And I think that you can probably rent it on Prime Video.
Yeah.
So I just watched it, and it's all about HSPs, highly sensitive people. And it came out in 2020, and there's already a book on it. It's been translated into a bunch of languages and everything. But I just love this statistic. 20% of the human population and of the other animals, because we're animals too, the other animal population, 20% of the population is HSP, is a highly sensitive person. And I think so I consider myself a highly sensitive person, and I think it's such a gift, and I think that we can feel so overwhelmed by everything that we sense energetically, that we pick up and that we sense. And I think that those of us who are highly sensitive can feel into that dead marketing, that bro marketing, versus that when someone is coming from an authentic, transparent place, even if they're not being transparent in their messaging, if they're coming from this spot, this sounds very woo, but I believe it to my very core. Like, if they're energetically coming from this spot of, hey, here's what I've got, this is how it's going to help you, this is what I charge for it, like that energetically sends a message, and people who are highly sensitive can fucking feel that, I think. So
and it can still be, you can still be as excited as all those ones that are faking it,
for sure.
But as long as that is your genuine excitement about it, like, not like, okay, now you've got to show up and you've got to be really excited about your thing, and then put some dings and ka-chings in the background, because that trains people's brains to think they're buying something or winning something. It's the difference about whether that's your genuine showing up excited about something, or whether you're coming from it like, okay, I'm going to manipulate people into buying this even though they don't want it.
Right.
And it comes back to trust too, doesn't it? Oh, sorry.
Wait, wait, what did you say? Say that again.
I said it comes back to trust too, because yes, those tactics work. And yes, you could make 6 figures or 7 figures or whatever the hell they're trying to convince us. It works. So people go, oh yeah, I want to be authentic, but that works, so I'm going to go and do that. But it's about having the balls, having the courage to show up genuinely and trust that your people will come because they will vibe with your energy. They will want what you want. Trust that they're, trust in the abundance. Trust that there are going to be people out there that want what you want, how you do it.
Right. And what you're creating. Because if
And
you
what,
go with that other template, what you're not actually bringing forth your own creation. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
oh, no,
that
you're right.
that came up when you were talking.
Absolutely.
It'd be like a
Absolutely.
sacrifice of whatever. It's like if you're like, oh, that shape like got a lot of like that shape, the triangle, that shape of the triangle is so successful. It's so bold. And
Yeah.
then I should go with that. But it's like, well, what shape could you create and actually bring forth into the world that's completely brand new if you just stuck with it
Yeah.
and you trusted and you trusted?
Yeah. Trust, 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 trust.
Okay. I don't want to forget, or I don't want to bypass because we're getting close to ending our time, but I do want to just circle back to um okay. Here, what I would like to know is how do you think our dominant, like the dominant narrative, like the dominant Western narrative, um, defines what rich is and what your redefinition of rich is? And maybe
Mm,
I'll try to I'll actually link to the post in the show notes
okay.
uh because because it was the inspiration for this whole conversation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah.
So what do you
Mm.
think? Like what
I think we all know what the dominant culture's
but
definition of
we
is.
never like talk about it. I feel like we should dust it off and actually like call a spade a spade. Like I didn't actually even write down my definition before this, so I don't mean to put you on the spot. If you want, I can like start riffing and just see
You
what
start
goes.
riffing, and then
Okay.
I'll interrupt you.
Okay, fabulous. Interrupt me. So I think what's interesting, especially as like someone who's now I'm building my business. I'm not working for someone. This idea of rich and success has come up to be redefined by me over and over and over again. And so what I think is really interesting is I have in my brain somewhere that living a rich life includes like everything, like my house my house needs to be spotless. Um, I everything needs to be nice. I need to have money. It involves a lot of money and like luxury things. And what's fascinating is obviously I'm not like against money or luxury things. Like one of my sister's friends one time called me a rich hippie. I'm like, actually I love that because I do like nice things. I'm not saying I don't, but somehow in if the word rich was like a pie chart in my brain, it's like 80% of a rich life is money, lots of money, and continue to have lots of money. And the
Mm,
funny thing is conceptually, intellectually, I know that isn't true. So I think
mm,
it's a very interesting thing to come up within my own self of I call it an outdated program, of this outdated program of rich that's subconscious, and to just like shed light on it and be like, wait a second, actually, yes, you would love to go on a luxury retreat one day, but that is not 80%. Like so much of a rich life is having the space to connect with my kids and my husband, having the space to go on a walk kind of whenever I want, like at any time of the day. Like I love that I can do that at like 11 a.m. I couldn't do that when I worked in a cubicle, you know? So to me that is rich. Eating like food that's good for me and choosing to indulge in food that isn't good for me when I want to. Like I think for me rich is is freedom and flow. So that means
yeah.
it's not hoarding all of the resources. It means it's not thinking that once I get $1 million, all my problems will be solved. That is hoarding energy. It's not flow energy. So to me, rich is there's so much trust. Bringing that word trust back around, there's so much trust in the flow, and which is how I define abundance too. It's very like in line with nature. Um, and there's cycles. It's freedom to allow space for the cycles of life. So, okay, that's my riff. What do you think? What's your riff?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Um, Especially in like when you talk about the old what did you say? The old paradigm, the
I think so. Old paradigm, old program,
old program.
internalized program. Yeah.
Yeah, and yes. Yeah, it's about things, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's about
Yeah.
money, but it's always about things. It's about, what kind of car you drive, that you have, that you own a house or, paying a mortgage, that you go on these holidays and you put them all over social media and you have new outfits for every event that you go to, and you take care of your appearance and you go and get your hair done, and you don't, like, I'm just letting myself go gray now, whereas I
I think
used
it's
to.
gorgeous.
Oh,
I, I
thank you.
want I was going to tell you that earlier before we started
Oh,
recording.
thank you. Yeah. Whereas I used to always diet. I was always, yeah, very, very kind of made up. And yeah, I think it's things, and it's what you look like. It's
Mm.
more about what everything looks like rather than what's in here. And like you say, now rich for me is time, like slow mornings. Like my partner's just raced off to work very early this morning, but often he'll go to work a bit later, and we'll sit and have a coffee on the balcony and
Mm.
chat about things or dream, or and my kids are older now, but even just getting time to spend with them, to just see these amazing men that they're growing
Mm.
into, and their deep thoughts, and having time to listen to people's deep thoughts about things, to cook food. I used to race home from work and grab something from the supermarket and heat it up, and like, I don't know, there are so many things that I'm just so grateful for now, because I have, it's freedom, and it's time.
Mm.
It's not about what I have, the things I have. It's about the spaces I have to, if I want to sit and look out at the sun or whatever it is, I can. I don't know.
I
I
love
think
that.
I haven't got this fully formed in my brain yet, but I'm feeling like it's
Mm.
space and time, to
Yeah.
play the piano when I want, to
Mm.
doodle if I want, if I need a brain break off the computer. Whereas, before I just keep working, go through lunch, like not even eat lunch, and, oh no, I can't doodle because that's a waste of time. You know, we have all these internalized stories, don't we?
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
That's a waste of time. If I think a lot of women think, oh, if their husbands or their partners come home and see them sitting on the lounge having a cup of tea, they would think they were lazy, or
Yeah. Yeah. And then adding on to that, in the nervous system class I took yesterday, I raised my hand at the end. I wanted to chat with her about like how fascinating I think it is that the more that I heal my nervous system, the more that I can see my nervous system is not primed for the feeling of peace. Like I'm developing my capacity to hold peace for longer and longer periods of time. And that is interesting to me. So like when you're talking about space, having the space to do things, I can notice old programs of my addiction to adrenaline filling the space with fucking anything. And
yeah.
so taking a step back to realize how pregnant the space is with vitality that you can't see, but you can feel it.
Mm,
Like this redefine of richness feels so much. I love that space word because in space there's nothing to see. It's all to feel.
mm,
And that has a lot to do with nervous system work, that of allowing our nervous system to like because anything that's unfamiliar to the nervous system, it will be afraid of. So allowing our nervous system to make way for space and allow that to slowly over time, 1 minute at a 1 minute more a month, 1 minute more a week, whatever it is, to be safe. to be safe in the space, to hold
Mm.
space.
Oh, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
This HSP thing. Say you're out in nature, or you're staying on a farm and you go out to pick some veggies to make your dinner, and you've got some tasks like that. You've got to go and milk the cow or whatever it is, but you're in nature, and there's no there's no hustle and bustle around you or whatever. How does that feel for an HSP?
Mm.
Like, does that allow your nervous system to relax?
I think there's like, it's so subjective because what's so interesting about the nervous system too is it's perceived threat. So for example, like that scene that you're describing sounds really beautiful for an HSP. There's so many opportunities for their nervous system to like sink into the space. However, like what if their kid is sick? What if they have a abusive husband? Like what if, like, there's all these other factors like that could be, so it's so subjective. Let's say that person has everything going quote right for them at home. I've never lived on a farm, so I've always lived in town.
So what
So
about
I
when you
can't
go
speak from
into
personal
nature?
experience. Yeah,
What about it?
so in nature, yeah. For me, I actually just went out this morning after dropping off my kids. Like I'm really practicing. Such a great place I think for an HSP then. I'll answer your question this way. For an
Yeah.
HSP to expand their capacity for peace, to expand their
Mm,
capacity for space. Because I used to go into nature and be like, yeah, this is really boring. But that was me being addicted to the go, go, go.
yeah.
So if I intentionally go into nature, because there's all these studies that are like, oh, when people spend time in nature, like their blood pressure goes down, they live happier lives. But that's not only it. I think, based on my own experience, you have to go into nature with the perception of, I'm going to practice being, like communing. You don't have to sit and be in a drum circle, but just practice noticing what comes up for you. And I think it's also important to do it in like little bites. I've taken off way too big of bites for nature before. My kids were little, and I like had to take a big break because it was like I was like forcing it. I was like, "Oh yeah, this is so good, so we have to do like the largest dose." Like
The hero dose.
the hero's dose of nature with my kids. No, little bits, steps at a time. 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. That makes a really fucking big difference for me.
Mm, okay.
Um,
I'm just wondering whether, like, let's just go into imaginary world now.
yeah,
Imagine if we were back doing things in the old ways, like living in villages, and the mamas coming together to grind their corn or whatever, to
yeah.
share their stories, and go down to the creek to collect water. I don't know. I'm just wondering if we ever got to a world that was more connected
Yeah.
humanly and spiritually, and more connected to nature as well, and to the real ways of living. I wonder if we would have HSPs anymore.
Ooh, interesting question. Or if we'd all be HSPs. Well,
Well,
but I also,
wouldn't that calm our nervous system so that
right.
that wouldn't be a thing anymore?
Well,
We would just be, I don't know.
that's the thing they were saying in that documentary was like how it's a necessary evolutionary step. And I see that too. Like I see folks who are sensitive as really not trying to get hierarchical about it, but as um advanced, as the next step of where we're
Mm,
going evolutionary. And it's just
yeah.
harder for those folks because our world wasn't built from those fine-tuned, energetic, fine-tuned sensitivities, energetic, intuitive, emotional. And so these folks, us folks, I really think are leading the way. So once, let's say we anchor that in, there's going to be, I mean, there's going to be another level, right? Like there's going to be another 20% of whatever the next level of that is. Maybe it's, HSP for telekinesis. Who knows? But
Mm.
it's just
Oh,
inching our
see,
way forward.
I think that's already happening. I can feel that yeah, I feel as if some of us are already, like, even the way we connected, some of us are already operating on that kind of system. And
Yeah.
I suppose what I'm getting at is, I'm wondering, I totally agree with you, but I think I'm running from it in a different track.
Okay.
In terms of, I'm not sure HSPs are something that's, like, you get diagnosed with something and it's considered not good. I think it's like being neurodivergent. I think
For sure.
it's beautiful, and there are such amazing talents that the I've lost my words. The, what do you call it when you're not divergent? Neurotypical.
Oh,
The neurotypical can't understand it. It's like that movie Divergent. Have you seen that? It's like years ago. It's like
I don't think so.
it's a bit like Hunger Games sort of thing.
Okay.
There's a girl in it that she's, you get categorized when you're 20 or something into these 5 groups, and you've got to be one of these 5 groups. And if you're not, you're called divergent, and you
Oh,
don't fit
interesting.
in society, and you're shoved over to the street alleys to live your life as a hobo or whatever it is, because you
Wow.
don't fit into one of these 5 categories. I feel like that's kind of like society, and our neurodivergent and our HSPs and everything. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that they can tap into all of the things, and possibly at a higher frequency or something.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that fit in the categories kind of look at them and go, oh, they're the strange ones. But actually, they're the ones that have the heightened abilities,
Mm-hmm.
will be able to bring in the new world.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm kind of thinking, I don't know, I have this thing, like, I'm feeling a pull back to old ways and ancient ways and that sort of thing. And I'm wondering whether these people operating on this frequency are the people that bring in that new world.
Right.
I
Right.
don't see it inside this rat race of hustle. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I like seeing there's so many I think there's so many interpretations of what the new world, what the next version of this world game that we're playing is going to look like. And I um
Yeah, I
there's
don't even
some
know what's the new world. I don't even know that. Like, I'm
yeah,
not attached to that.
well,
I don't
new
know.
world, it's a
Like,
familiar term.
it's
There's
a
a lot of
familiar,
people that know it, but
but it
it's
might not
also
even be on this plane. It might be, in some other form.
right.
I don't know what it is. I don't know. And I think this is the thing too. I have to make sure I people understand that, like, sometimes I'll say things, but then I'm not necessarily attached to them, because I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's
I
part of
what
the
I'm
new world.
feeling, but I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
You know.
Well, I think getting it like expressing it and sharing it is paramount. I think it's imperative because then other people who resonate with that vision, it I think it wakes up something dormant that goes, oh, I resonate with that. I'm gonna work, I'm gonna vibe off of that. And then it's like it reminds me of like a homeopathic dose when we share our idea and then sharing the idea without attach with allowing it to die. Just like my tree outside, like it creates a fruit and then it drops the fruit when it's no longer viable and then it creates a new fruit. It's like your idea that you're sharing is if it feels, I think if it feels resonant, it's meant to be shared. Like a fruit being
Mm,
dropped from a
mm,
tree. And it doesn't mean that it has to be the be all end all forever. I think
mm.
like if we're talking about the next level, like the new world, like I think it's going to be very fluid and ideas are going to flow
And we don't need to
fluidly.
be attached. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I think that's something that right now everybody's so attached to this
Yeah.
idea. They're so attached to that idea. Rather than, and seeing things as, oh, you're that side, so you must agree with this, and this. You're
Right.
that side, you have to agree with all these things, rather than, oh, I agree with that, but I also agree with that, but I agree with that. You know, like, why can't we just be fluid? Why, like, people are just, you know, dogmatic about either this or that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably one of the biggest problems right now, is that people are so attached to an idea, and then they
Yeah.
don't ever evolve it. You know, I
Right.
can't let go of that now. Oh,
Right.
you know,
It
I
creates
don't know.
divisiveness instead of
Yes,
opportunity for connection and
yes,
evolution, you know, evolving of an idea.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how that shifts. We get to watch it in
Mm,
real time.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
you know what? We have talked totally. We like I kind of like how I thought we were gonna do. We just did it. We just flowed like the river of abundance, not to be corny, but very much so. And the ideas just came. And like it's already been like probably at least 45 minutes. So
Mm,
time completely flies talking with you. I
yeah,
I'm gonna
loved it.
close it, but before I close, I want to know if there's anything else that just like you just you just feel like you've got to share before we and also I want to well anything okay. Before I ask you to share where people can find you, is there anything else that you want to share just like that comes from your heart that you just feel like you have to share?
I just I love so many things that we've touched on today, and not that then people need to listen to it and think, oh yeah, that's a good way of thinking, I need to think that way. It's more, and I think I speak for you too on this, it's more that we're questioning, you know,
Mm,
we're asking questions, we're not just taking things from what we've been fed at school or what we've been fed on the news or whatever. We're questioning and we're imagining, we're using our creativity to imagine what the meanings could be, or imagine what it might mean. And I think these two things, this ability to question and not just blindly accept, so question and also be creative, and you know, allow your mind to innovate on what you're thinking, and because that's how our
mm,
ideas evolve, you know. And I think if you take those two things into whatever you're doing, whether it's business, you know, question the way business is being done, and then feel into you and what do you want to create and what can you imagine, and go create that. don't
mm,
don't you don't have to do it that way. You know, same with your podcast, you're imagining a new way to do it, and it's coming from you and your heart. And yeah, I love seeing that. I love seeing people doing things differently, and I think this is how we create a new, I know we're going back to that new,
paradigm.
yeah,
Mm,
a new paradigm of people who can think for themselves and honor what comes from here, and trust.
that's a mic drop right there. I love that. I love that especially that last piece. And it comes back to trust. I'm gonna say trust was the theme of our conversation today.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it might be. It's a bit of a theme for my life.
Yeah, same. I have it on a post-it in my kitchen actually.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
Okay, so until before I say goodbye, how can people find you?
So I hang out on Instagram. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. I don't, yeah. I've tried all the other things, so I don't like them. So what is it? It's the.rebellious.educator. Dot as in what do you call them? Period.
Period. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my website is oh God, I should have been prepared with this. Sorry. My
That's fine.
website is rebelliouseducator.com.
Perfect. Gorgeous.
Hey.
Okay. Well, that's a wrap. I'm going to leave your Instagram handle and your website in the show notes, so it'll just be an easy click for people too.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to talk about any of my stuff. I've talked about another podcast stuff, and I'll just leave my links below too. And
Right.
you can find either of us on the interwebs.
On the interwebs,
Yeah.
changing the world.
Changing the world on the interwebs. Thank you so much for coming on and joining me today,
Yeah.
Tiffany.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it.
I loved it. That was just such a joy.
Yes. Okay.
Mm.
I bye for now.
Yeah. Bye for now.